Yeah! You know who it is. Hey, don't ask who did it. Check the name, fool. The associates did it, yeah, they rolling deep. The associates did it, got it out the streets. The associates did it, never miss a beat. If you heard some real ones, it was probably me. The associates did it.
My name is Josh Carpenter from Carpenter and Associates, and I'm going to kind of read you guys a little story, kind of like I did for Christmas. This is a little bit of a New Year's thing, but sticking to kind of who I am. It's kind of focuses on historic events and specifically the Battle of Trenton, and so in the Revolutionary War. So without too much ado, here we go. Once again, for those watching, I'm reading. Sorry, it won't be very exciting that way, but hopefully I'll do a half-decent job narrating here. So there you go for your radio. All right. By the final week of 1776, the American Revolution was unraveling. The optimism of July, of declarations and cheers and promises, had been ground down by defeat. The Continental Army had lost New York, had been pushed relentlessly across New Jersey, and now stood bruised, freezing, and fractured along the western bank of the Delaware River. Men were hungry and starving. Powder was damp, coats were threadbare, boots were a luxury many no longer possessed. Most damning and problematic of all is that enlistments expired on December 31st. At midnight, thousands of soldiers could and would legally cease to exist in the Continental Army. Across the river, British and Hessian forces settled into winter quarters, confident that the rebellion was finished and quashed. Many officers wrote home predicting peace by spring. Loyalists even emerged from hiding and were openly advocating reuniting with England. It looked, by every rational measure, like the end of the Revolution. But George Washington did not measure wars rationally. Washington understood something fundamental. A revolution is not sustained by survival, it is sustained by belief. Others would say it is sustained by hope. If the army dissolved quietly at the end of the year, the idea of independence would dissolve with it. Congress would scatter, and foreign powers that were at first supportive of the United States experiment would turn away. The British would tighten the noose at leisure, and all would be lost. Washington did not need a grand victory. He needed proof of life. And so he fixed his eyes on Trenton, New Jersey, a modest town occupied by about 1,400 Hessian soldiers under Colonel Johann Rall. These Hessians were professionals, disciplined, experienced, feared. But they were also mercenaries, far from home, and convinced no attack was possible in winter. The plan Washington conceived was audacious to the point of reckless. He would cross the Delaware River on Christmas night. He would march 9 miles through a storm and attack at dawn. If it worked, the rebellion would breathe again. But if it failed, the war would be done. On Christmas night, December 25th, 1776, darkness fell and the weather turned vicious. Snow gave way to sleet, and sleet hardened into freezing rain. The wind cut through wool and bone alike. The Delaware River surged, swollen and choked, with massive slabs of ice grinding together like millstones. But this was no symbolic crossing. This was a fight against nature itself. The boats, Durham boats normally used for hauling iron, were maneuvered by experienced New England watermen. Artillery had to be loaded carefully, balanced, and steadied against ice strikes that could splinter holes or throw men into the current. At several moments, officers feared the river would claim them all. Men slipped, horses screamed, cannons nearly capsized boats. And yet, after an hour, and then another, and then another, the army crossed. Washington stood visible throughout, mounted, silent, and refused any shelter. He did not command with speeches, he commanded by endurance. The crossing was only supposed to take a few hours, but it took nearly the entire night. And by the time the last artillery piece reached the New Jersey shore, it was nearly 4 o'clock in the morning. The attack timetable was already broken. Some officers quietly suggested calling it off. Surprise was slipping away. Dawn approached. The men were exhausted beyond reason. Washington listened and gave his answer. They would march on anyway. There would be no second chance, no tomorrow, no fallback, no contingency. The choice was simple: advance or cease to exist and disappear. The 9-mile march to Trenton was a trial of human limits. Snow and ice, numbed feet already wrapped in rags, blood-stained the road where boots were gone entirely. Muskets soaked from the crossing were unreliable. Many men marched knowing their weapon might and probably would not fire at all. Columns moved in silence, broken only by wind and labored breath. Officers whispered commands. Men stumbled forward, driven less by confidence than by the knowledge that turning back would mean nothingness. Some later wrote that they marched not for victory, but because Washington had asked them to follow him just one more time. Inside Trenton, Colonel Rawle's Hessians were not drunk and disorderly, as legend sometimes claims, but they were, in fact, complacent. They had dismissed warnings of attack. The weather seemed an impenetrable defense. Christmas festivities lingered in fatigue and relaxed vigilance. As dawn broke on December 26, 1776, American forces emerged from snow and fog at the edges of town, and the attack came from two separate directions. Cannon fired echoed down narrow streets, muskets cracked at close range. The Hessians attempted to form ranks, or were struck down before any cohesion could take hold. They could not understand how an enemy army had crossed the river, much less marched through a storm. But within minutes, confusion of the Hessian army became collapse. The fighting was sharp and close, but brief. Washington rode forward under fire, directing artillery, steadying lines, exposing himself with a calm that astonished those around him. Colonel Rawle was mortally wounded while attempting to rally his men. Within 45 minutes, organized resistance ended. Nearly 900 Hessian soldiers were captured and taken. Supplies, weapons, and morale fell into American hands. American casualties, however, were minimal. Against all logic, the impossible had in fact occurred. The moment would enter history as the Battle of Trenton, but its significance lay far beyond any battlefield. Washington, however, did not linger. Knowing British reinforcements were nearby, he withdrew back across the Delaware with prisoners and captured supplies. But something had in fact changed. Men who had planned to leave re-enlisted. Some signed on for weeks, others for months, and even additional civilians emerged from the silence. Congress also regained its voice. The army was no longer retreating in disrepair. It was maneuvering with intent. And within days, Washington would strike again at Princeton, cementing the psychological reversal of what was going on with the United States Continental Army. Trenton did not win the war, but it did in fact save it. And it proved the Continental Army could still strike. It proved Washington would risk everything rather than accept quiet defeat. It proved that winter, fear, and exhaustion were not insurmountable. Above all, it taught a lesson that echoes across centuries of warfare. Momentum is often born when hope is weakest. The image of Washington crossing the Delaware has been painted, carved, made mythological in all levels at this point. But the real power of that night lies not in heroism, but in decision. Washington crossed because the alternative was surrender without a fight. He crossed knowing that history rarely rewards caution at the edge of collapse. And because he crossed, an idea survived long enough to become a nation. Every generation faces its own Delaware. A moment when retreat feels reasonable, when exhaustion argues louder than conviction, when the calendar turns and everything seems lost. The lesson of Trenton is not that victory is guaranteed. It is that crossing anyway is sometimes the only way forward. All right. Thank you, everybody. Once again, this is Josh Carpenter of Carpenter Associates of the Associates Did It podcast. And just thought you'd enjoy this little kind of New Year history lesson. And we'll be back with full episodes after the holidays, and wish you and everybody with you and your families and loved ones the best and happiest of New Year's. And obviously, should you need us or have any questions, 972-455-8700 or www.carplawfirm.com. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year. Goodbye.
Yeah! You know who it is. Hey, don't ask who did it. Check the name, fool. The associates did it,